Jai Ma, Om Namah Shivaya, Vama Kali. Today we have another video about possession. When you look beneath the surface, there's so much around that lends itself to possession. So a friend recently told me a story that happened in her family where one of the family members was not acting like herself for a long period of time, and eventually stopped participating in the day, just staying inside and not calling family members by mommy, daddy, etc., but just by their names. And finally the friend, through a beautiful synchronicities, the dime dropped and realized that the family member was possessed by a negative entity. So that friend was, through grace, through whatever, went to someone who could help her family member, and that entity was released. And what a blessing, eh? So this negative entity possession is much, much more common and prevalent than we believe or know or experience. So it's like, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? So I remember one friend saying, everyone is possessed and everyone's going to be possessed, so let them be possessed by Krishna. Or maybe that's my interpretation of what my friend said. But there's a lot of truth to that statement. We can think we're possessed by money, we're possessed by sex, we're possessed by drugs, we're possessed by achievement, by realizing goals. We're obsessed with building our family name. We're obsessed with social life. We're obsessed with clubbing. So the obsession is really very close to a possession. So here in where I live in Bali, it's the island of the gods, and possession, both negative and positive, has been part of the culture here since the get-go. So the field is very porous here in general, and that's why many people who are open or psychic or have these kind of blessings congregate here in Bali and Ubud particularly, because the field is super supportive for that. So you see a lot of people who are dealing with possession in more obviously than you might somewhere else. But people can be possessed as an anti-vaxxer or a pro-vaxxer or a vegan, or possessed by the durian gods. And some people around here, the way eat durian is like, they're possessed. It's not even human what they're doing with the durian. Why is that? Why is durian attracting that, you know? So if you just go beneath the surface a little, you can see that possession is super widespread on many different levels. Everyone, we can say, is possessed by the ego. We can say it's a entity. It's not you. You are truth, you are love, you are joy, you are divine. But the ego is also part of creation, so it is also divine, etc. But it's not who you are. It's like saying you are the body, but you're not the body. You're beyond the body and nothing to do with the body, like the ego. You are not the ego, you are the ego, you are beyond the ego, and you're both the ego and not the ego. So everyone is possessed. Everyone whose ego is in the dominant driver's seat, in the forefront of one's consciousness, is possessed by their ego, right? So the ego has memories, it has fears, it has desires, it has hopes, it has samskaras, we say, vrittis. It has many of these unique facets that create passion or fear or anger. And have you seen really angry people? They're possessed as well. And even they'll tell you in some cultures, don't get angry like that because you invite possession when you get that angry. So that's a really interesting way to look at it also, is some people how can we protect ourselves against possession and negative possession? Well, one is, don't go to places unless you do that kind of work and you're experienced with negative entities. don't go to places where they congregate, and definitely don't weaken your field. So you can imagine if you went to a super low vibration party where everyone was using, some awful drug, and that's where entities would congregate, yeah? Or, many places that would attract negative entities. So don't go there. If you find yourself there, feel like, okay, how does it really feel to me? Is it okay to be here? Or do I need to drink or take drugs or something to be in this environment? And if you do, then the chances are you should leave for your health. So entire places can become possessed, like nightclubs, like the haunted house. An entire place can be possessed by multiple entities. And that's the other thing, people can also carry multiple entities. So it's an entity party. And so the ego itself is like an entity. It invites other entities that are aligned and resonate with it. So if you're like a miser, someone who's super crazy careful with money and super cheap, like never have enough and like hoarding your money, that's like you're possessed by money. But your possession, like this character, the old man like hoarding the gold, is like it's like an archetype, but it's also a possession. That's the way they become. So it's we can say like the possession, possessed by the idea of like COVID is a killer. Like the possession runs all sorts of levels. What people can be possessed by: an idea, a concept, a belief, a memory. So many things, and that attracts the corresponding outside negative entity. So that if there's no resonance, how can you attract a negative entity? It's only your own resonance with this negative entity that attracts the exterior negative entity. Else, how could it happen? So what's the solution to this possession? One is choose your possession wisely. So if you're going to be possessed, let them be possessed by Krishna, yeah. It can also be Shiva or Kali or Durga. But Jesus, Mary Magdalene. So everyone is possessed by an idea or a field or very rare. If someone is not possessed by anything, they're essentially like half liberated. Like that's what we call like detachment, perfect detachment. Like they're not possessed by anything. But people can be possessed with the idea of their own enlightenment. That's another possession. Or being a yogi, or being spiritual, or it just goes on and on and on. So how not to be possessed is this constant purification of your field, of your psyche, of your body, thoughts, programs, beliefs, should, could, would, that you're the doer, that you're doing good or you're doing bad, or you make mistakes, or you're like, no, it's not like that. And if you just keep releasing all that, then you're able to see, like Plato would say, mistaking the rope for a snake or a snake for a rope, because the shadow with your own perspective, you cast a shadow on something that's neutral, and you make the rope a snake because of your fear of snakes. So that's a famous Indian Satsang, and and Plato, I think, picked it up there, but whatever. So it's like you're projecting like crazy based on your own fears. But people are doing that all the time writ large. They're living in that condition. That's what the definition of asleep is that you're looking at the cave wall and you think that's reality. So you see, like, even buying into let's look at the angle from the mind. So many people believe that they are their thoughts. So every thought that comes into their head, they're like one-to-one reactivity. Like the mind is who I am, and the mind, I just follow wherever it goes. So there's no like meditative, separation from you and the mind, or awareness brought there between, like, the mind is not who you are actually. It's part of your psychophysiology, it's part of your anatomy, but it has the thoughts that it produces are not you. They're relevant for you. There's something going on there, But one doesn't have to pay attention to that all the time. One is not the mind. And when one believes one is the mind, then you're just fully 100% engaged at the mind level and think that's who you are. You are possessed by the mind and its thoughts. And that's what most people live like. And that is asleep. So the mind tells me to do this, the mind tells me to do that, call it, no. I act from another place, which is I'm able to see the mind like an advisor, like the court jester. And then I'm acting from a place of intuitive love. That's quite different. So I have a mind, I appreciate it. It analyzes, it makes arguments, it weighs things, it comes up, with some good ideas, some good adjustments. But I'm only taking it as like one source. Don't believe I am the mind at all. So you see, like, I am not possessed by my mind. But if you talk this way, I was talking this way to a friend today, and he said, if you talk to like 99% of the people, they'll think you're crazy if you start talking like that. Yeah, exactly. So to become depossessed or free or liberated, you see, you have to go beyond the idea that you are the mind, you are the body, that you're the doer, that all these very core concepts to the egoic structure have to be dissolved or released or fraying in order for you to get into a state where you are not possessed by your own memories, your own fears, your own subconscious desires. You know what they are. You feel like it takes a lot of awareness to move into a state where you're not even possessed by your own sex drive, by your own, the parents have been telling you forever, get married. And like it's in the back of your subconscious, and like you feel like, yeah, like you let go of that. You let go of who people expect you to be, who you expected yourself to be before, where you think the journey is going, like what the destination is. Like let it all go. The idea of enlightenment, let it go. Yes, it exists, it's there. By the grace of God, it may happen, but it cannot be a goal even because it's so easily slipping into possession. And when you radiate enough light and joy and autonomy in that way from your own stuff and other people's stuff and the world's stuff, then you're moving towards a lighter state where no outside negative entity can attach to you, because those things that they attach to are not there, or they're very weak. So why are they going to spend time with you? They'll go over to the next person. More happy hunting grounds. And then a crazy thing starts to happen when you're in this kind of field, especially when Kelly gets involved, and of course she's been involved from the whole thing. But when negative entities are around that kind of vibration, the Kali energy, even the Kundalini energy in many ways. I have a friend in the United States who helps people with exorcisms from the Kundalini. So some people, as a blessing from the Kundalini, are able to exercise others with their energy and with their intent. And so when you yourself become super aligned with that divine intelligence, that love, that power of love, it sometimes automatically moves into an exorcism where the other person starts releasing all that negative stuff, whether it be internal or external. So we can say that's also Shaktipat. That's the transmission of Ma's grace. Because what is it doing? It's relieving you of your vasana and samskara, your vritti, the things, the subconscious, latent energy and desires, thoughts, beliefs, memories that are keeping you bound like Gulliver. So Shaktipat is like the ultimate depossessor. And when the Kundalini starts in you, when your process starts with it, when Kali's blessings arrives with you, she is the ultimate exorciser, ultimate exorcist. What's going to get past her? Who would you want in your corner in that situation, dealing with all the negative entities? You want Kali, of course, the dark goddess, they say. So first we have to admit the reality of possession and how widespread it is. Then we have to look at ourselves and say, how are we possessed? And do that self-inquiry and that feeling into and that allowing and that being with. And that's a long process for many people. Certainly was for me. And then in the third stage, we can start identifying this possession and what possessed by. Like, I mean, we can do it already. You know the miser when you see him. You know the sex maniac when you see him. You know, like the criminal. You already have that capacity to sense when the energy's bad. Someone's crazy. Someone's possessed. You can even tell. Like, of course, they're screaming in the streets. Like, they might be possessed. So we already have this innate ability, gift, to sense all that, and everyone has that. And all we have to do is release ourselves from all the programming, all the ropes, and all the little things that prevent us from seeing what we innately can already see. So instead of making an excuse for someone why they're possessed, you can just say they're possessed. It's like a neutral thing. It's not a pejorative. Everyone seems to be possessed by something. So if I look back on myself, like, what am I possessed by? It's like, what am I talking about? And I'm possessed by Kali. Kali. And I'm with this Kali consciousness, this feeling of Kali, 24/7. 24/7. So I would say in another way, I'm cohabiting a single consciousness with the Divine Mother, Kali. Another way you can say I'm possessed by Kali. Well, Kali, the one who licks up all the blood of the demons and saves the day and all that stuff, is exactly the one you want to be possessed by, because she got all those weapons. She's gonna lick the blood of the demons. Those demons are your internal thoughts and beliefs and memories. She's just licking them up all the time, sucking them up until you go into a state where all those things dissolve and fray. So, what do you choose? Do you want to be possessed by things that are like fear, like even exposing yourself to like horror movies or gore? Like, it has, of course, an energetic effect, especially if you're watching that repeatedly, or video games that really promote that. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. Once you start looking through the world through the idea and the feeling of possession, you really see what's going on, and then you look back on yourself and you say, how do I want to exist in this temporal plane, and how can I reach my highest potential, and how can I be in service to others? And you'll realize that being possessed, or cohabiting a single consciousness, we can say, with a super high vibe being, an ascended master, Mary Magdalene, the Hindu gods, whomever is your Ishta. You see, that's the key of the Ishta. The Ishta isn't that's the god of your choice in Hinduism and Sanskrit. So the Ishta isn't someone that I read in a book and as a starter, but actually the devotee would like to be possessed by the Ishta. That's the relationship between Ishta and devotee. It's not just someone you worship as an idol on the mantle. It's actually like if Shiva is your Ishta, you desire to be possessed by Shiva. That's the goal, non-goal of your sadhana, is this positive possession. So people look for visions of Shiva, or they look for signs from Shiva, or whatever. But actually, even more powerful is to be possessed by Shiva. So the choice is yours. Do you want to be possessed by money, sex, power? Do you want to be possessed by popularity? Do you want to be possessed by money? I said money twice, but probably deserves twice. Do you want to be possessed by fear? Do you want to be possessed about the whole vaccine COVID debate? Many people possessed on both sides. Or do you want to be free? That's the question. And then if you want to be free, what can you choose as a positive possession to help you in your quest for liberation? Jema Oma Vama Bhakta A Om Shakti Ma. Hail Mary, full of grace, I am one love. Om. Jema Jema.